I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact, focused on personal growth, my workbook series, The Knowledge, will help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about my ex stares at me at work and wants to be near me.
Interesting topic we have for you for today. Before we get into it, I did want to say that Craig and I are available for coaching sessions. So if you're curious about sharing your situation with us personally on a call, you can head to our website and book from there.
Absolutely. So we get a lot of people that work with people that they're in a relationship with. And obviously many of those people that talk with us are in a breakup.
Yeah.
And so it can be complicated because the complexities of your particular work environment or maybe the positions of the company, as far as dating your coworkers can be very challenging.
Right, and the types of interactions you have, forced interactions for some of you, seeing each other on Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of levels to it.
Absolutely. So it can be confusing. And, one of the big things that you have to do in that situation is you have to kind of treat that person like a coworker. If they are in a place of business and you are expected to work together, you've got to treat it like a coworker kind of situation.
And this can really challenge your maturity skills because many of you might have a lot of anxiety and it might come out during work hours where you try to approach your ex in that workspace in an inappropriate way. You might even get a talking to from HR or whatever it might be. So guys, do not compromise your career. Do not compromise your employment or your income because of a situation with an ex. And I know it can get so sticky, but really maturity is going to be challenged.
Absolutely. It's not fair to bombard them at work with relationship stuff. Now, if they say to you, something about the relationship or they want to talk to you, then simply say, yeah, I'd love to talk, but I don't think this is the right time or place for that. When are you free to get together and talk? And then take it from there. But in that kind of environment, it can really make things complicated. I have a guy right now that he's going through it with this woman that they were dating but not exclusive for a long time, and he didn't want to commit to her, right? So he was essentially dating a lot of people and hooking up with a lot of people, and she kind of suspected it. But he slowly got more and more attached to her. Now, because he's in a position that's above her for what they do, it's making it complicated, especially because she's giving a lot of mixed messages. But we had done a bunch of coachings and it was going okay and quite frankly getting a little bit better. But because of the holidays and him being on vacation at a different time when I was on vacation, he started to make a lot of little mistakes that were ultimately pressuring her. Pressuring, wanting answers, pressuring at work, wanting answers, and it just made it worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, so you want to be really careful when it's in the workplace. And I know some of you have that mantra where you don't defecate where you eat. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
And so, I understand that some of you are very cautious with that.
So let's get into this email coaching because we're going to get into this guy's story here. They said, "Hi, Craig. Thank you so much for helping me and many others get through this difficult time. My ex is in her early 20s and I am in my mid-20s as well. Met while working at the same job in the summer of 22 and dated until early 2023. She pursued me at first, and once we started talking, we instantly connected. She recently got out of a 5-year relationship with her partner who was an abusive cheater." So that's big, especially in this situation where she's still in her very early 20s. They were essentially teenagers when she started dating this other guy. And she had only recently gotten out of that situation. So I would think it would be tough for her to get into something long lasting right after that. A lot of times people would be afraid to be alone and look for something kind of temporary until they feel okay with being alone again.
Right. And you also have to think about the amounts of relational trauma that she experienced in that.
That's right.
Now, I know we're not talking with her in this situation, but just those words, abusive and cheater, so a lot of betrayal, a lot of deception, probably would take a while for her to be able to trust again.
She also had a rough past with her mom and her dad divorcing, and then later her father died due to alcoholism, plus had multiple guys assault her as well. She has been through a lot. And she's only in her early 20s, because you can imagine going through all of that. You know, dad dying because of alcoholism, getting assaulted by multiple men. Very difficult for this poor woman. We broke up once, but got back together about a week later. One day, I drove up to her school. After we hung out for a little while, she was bawling her eyes out because she didn't want me to leave her. A week later, right before Valentine's Day, I got her gifts. One gift, I wrote her a note about what our future will look like together. After I brought her over to my house, I gave her the gifts, and she was not amused about them at all. So, first thing it would tell me is that she's still really young, and that probably scared her and felt smothering.
Right. And just given everything that she had gone through, thinking about trust, thinking about the future, it might have been, a lot for her at the time.
The next morning, she took my gifts and I dropped her home. Later in the day, she texted me asking to break up since the letter scared her. Yeah, those letters can really freak people out. That declaration of love just really overwhelms people.
Yeah.
Especially avoidance. She said she loves me and thinks about me all the time, but was not ready for a relationship. After she said that, I went no contact. However, she was still friends with me and my mom on Facebook and Instagram. In April, I got a promotion with my job and had an awful work accident. A few months later, she texted me and said, I heard what happened. If you need anything, I am here.
Okay.
So that was really thoughtful of her. But to me, that's not any kind of romantic gesture like I'm interested in you. It's more like I care about you. I still care about you as a person.
Exactly. And I wonder if there was any miscommunication on what their expectations were with each other, level of interest there, and if things might have been clearly stated or not.
Well, he clearly stated himself in the email or the letter.
Right, but I wonder if he had assumed that her interest level was higher than it was, or if, they had talked about, I like you too, let's get into a relationship, or, if it was just, I think she likes me, I think she'll respond well to this. I just wonder more of what the conversation and context was to that.
After that, we kept texting. However, she quickly turned into a dry texter. Later, she got a new car. I asked her to see it, and she agreed, which then turned us into going out to eat and having a great time. A couple of months later, while at work, I asked to hang out, and she completely turned me down, saying how she wants to avoid me, and how it's weird to be hanging out with me in a loud voice where others could hear. So that got pretty cold pretty quick. And I hate to say it, but I really see this with younger women.
And I'll say, it sometimes, especially for women, it takes some time to be able to learn boundaries, to be able to learn, your voice. And just hearing part of her history, it seems like her boundaries have been crossed in very severe ways. When you're in a relationship with somebody who's abusive or controlling, that can kind of overshadow who you are, and you kind of become smaller because of being in that relationship. So it seemed like, she might have had this building feeling of discomfort that she had a difficult time really voicing clearly. He might have been very optimistic, very hopeful, seeing this nice girl at work, and maybe overshooted, his shot in this case. And so I could see it being just a mismatch in communication, her speaking her level of discomfort, and him making some assumptions about where she's at, and maybe some difficulty reading some of those subtle signs of, oh, I'm not so comfortable here. I'm not really interested in something further.
Well, I mean, it's tough because they went out, they had a good time, and I bet after that night he'd started thinking about her a lot more, thinking, oh, wow, we had a great time. Maybe she's interested. Maybe she'll want to see me again. And all along she was thinking, no, I don't feel that way right now.
Right.
And he didn't know. I mean, how could he know? I mean, we don't see any evidence or anything here that would indicate she'd, let him know she wasn't interested. But then all of a sudden, asking her to hang out, I mean, it's kind of mean to say it loudly that everybody could hear it, right? Upset, I went no contact. At home, I was obsessed with wondering if she was watching my stories or not, which she recently stopped viewing. On Snapchat, you can see the other person's location, and so it broke my heart to see her sleeping over another guy's house. Now we know why she was so cold. She probably had a boyfriend. Well, maybe she didn't, because he was stalking so much, he probably would have known.
Yeah.
Guys, I gotta warn you about social media a little bit. Be very careful on what you make public, okay? From personal experience, and you know what happened. There are a lot of dangerous, scary people out there with some serious mental health problems.
You want to be really careful with what's accessible and what's not accessible, because, people can stalk you. We've seen it all and heard it all, or we think we've seen it all.
We've
We're
seen a
always
lot.
surprised, we've seen a lot.
We've lived it.
You want to be able to protect yourself and, limit the kind of information that exes might have. So really, really protect yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. However, when we work together, she constantly stares at me for long periods and tries to be in my area all the time.
This would be confusing.
Man, talk about some mixed messages. It'd be really frustrating.
Yeah.
You ask her out, she humiliates you, but then she's staring at you all the time and wanting to be where you're at.
Yeah. It's confusing. But I will say, you have to take everything into the context, right? They're at work. You're somebody who she has hung out with outside of work. She might feel a closer connection to you than she does maybe a random coworker, even if she does feel like it might be weird to hang out all the time. So, we've been talking about this concept that multiple things can be true. She can enjoy being in your presence. She might not want to take it further romantically. Right?
The bottom line is, she's spending her nights with another guy, and she's rejecting him publicly. Right. So, to me, that's more important than just the staring. Last week, I decided to break the ice between her and I, and started to be myself, teasing her and the other coworkers, which they all took delight in. My teasing made her laugh and smile at me, and it felt great. The next day, I walked into the store to buy flowers for a friend. However, I went to the back of the store to talk to another coworker while she was in the front. She then comes to the back and talks to me and my coworker, where she later proceeds to tease me and smile at me.
Okay.
This is a roller coaster.
But I will say, once again, everything in context. Can you tease someone and not be madly in love with them? Yeah.
Yeah, but, if somebody likes you, then you shouldn't be doing things to give them these kind of mixed messages. It's hurtful.
Right, but they're also at work, and it sounds like she might just want to have that kind of a work-friendly relationship, and I think that would be okay.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
So it's hard, as we're talking about, working with somebody who is your ex, because it might be harder to set some of those boundaries. You can't say, well, don't talk to me, don't look at me, don't stare at me, right? Because you have to be able to coexist together after a rupture like that, after some kind of feeling of rejection like that, and repair and be resilient enough to work there.
Yeah.
So it's one of those situations where it's tough, and it sounds like it's really confusing on his end. It seems like he's really not sure what to do next.
Yeah, and who could blame him?
Yeah.
When I was leaving the store, I said goodbye to everyone, not expecting her to say anything. However, she yelled out bye to me. My question for you is, will she reach out? How can I double my chances for her to open up to me and consider us again?
So while we don't suggest being friends with an ex or after a breakup, considering that they work together. We're not saying that he has to go above and beyond and be super friendly to her and, open up emotionally or ask about where she's been these nights.
Sure.
But more so keeping a cordial and safe kind of a work relationship with her would be completely appropriate in this situation.
Yep. Exactly what I was going to say was cordial, polite, but don't go out of your way to talk to her.
And it's hard. We talk about in a separate video how the research shows that men generally overestimate women's interest in them. It's harder in this situation because they actually did date for several months. And so there's that history of, man, this person did show interest in me. I know what it's like when she likes me. So it can be hard to kind of transform that relationship into more of a professional one. But it's something here that I think will speak volumes of your ability to respect her decision, of your ability to give her space, and it feels safe. For women especially, it feels safe when other people listen to your boundaries. And I know that's such a basic thing. Man, the bar is very low here. But truly, you want to be able to show her, hey, I hear you, I accept what you're telling me, and I want to be as respectful as possible.
And I think that if he does that, she will start to escalate her behavior if she's interested. Because like he said in the beginning of the email here, that she pursued him at first once they started talking, right? So that tells us that if her interest is there, she'll do something about it. Right? So I think if her interest is there again, she'll do something about it. Now, whether or not he wants to give her another chance, he should think long and hard about if she is going to be a good partner for him based on her history, based on all of the traumas, and whether she's in a good place to be ready for a healthy relationship instead of maybe somebody that mistreats her.
Right, and that's the key. It's not so much what she's been through, but it's the timing here. She's just fresh out of this relationship, and so we want to make sure that somebody's in a healthy enough place. We don't want to be that person that somebody runs to just because their relationship ended. We certainly don't want to be a rebound. We certainly don't want to be a plan B.
Because and I'm also looking here over the complaints that she had, what she had, if she had any. And really it was only that he gave her the letter and gave her gifts that was making her feel smothered that she wanted to end this. So it's not like she said he did anything wrong.
Right.
So you also want to consider that maybe just some smothering is what made her want to leave this relationship and made her feel like she's not ready.
Yeah, right.
And
you have to be cognizant of it takes a different set of skills to date somebody who's been through those past experiences. So want to be really cautious. You want to be really careful. I think what's appropriate here is to be able to be cordial, keep things light. You certainly don't want to ignore her. You certainly don't want to, be bitter or angry, but rather be able to show her, I am mature enough to be able to show up at work, to be friendly to you. I'm not going to hold any resentment or bitterness.
Yeah.
And, we can keep this distanced relationship until you are ready to move it forward.
Yeah, and I would let her make some kind of effort to reach out or escalate here before asking her out again, because last time she kind of publicly humiliated this poor guy, just by asking her to hang out and doing it so everybody could hear. So I think you should protect yourself a little bit here and say, okay, you may like her, but you should like yourself enough to say, I'm not going to put myself out there for somebody who's willing to humiliate me when you didn't really do anything wrong. So I would want to see her make some kind of effort or at least hint that she would like to see you outside of a work setting before doing this, because, nobody wants to get rejected like that publicly for everybody to hear.
Yeah.
That's really immature of her to do. She could have pulled them aside or said something different.
Right.
So it's tough when you have feelings for somebody that you work with like this and they're not interested at this point. Maybe she does have some interest, but we know she's dating somebody else, or probably dating somebody else. She's spending the night with somebody else. So I'd be really careful, and I would look at this as a very casual situation unless she started to really show some growth and maturity here.
Right. And many of you are always asking, how do I show my ex that I've changed? When you work with them, you have an opportunity every time you clock into work, depending on how much you interact at work, to be able to show you respect their decision. So I'll keep it at that.
Okay, so hopefully this one's been helpful to you. Of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Skype. Coach Victoria is also available for Skype coaching.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.